Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to a fantastic episode which you guys have requested me to do and explain you what runes should you equip on Jester. Of course, we have to mention that the next episodes I'm working on are regarding navy, planes and tanks and what runes are best for those setups, but it's gonna help you a lot by watching this episode in which we're gonna specifically address Miss Jester, because that's the point, understanding the way these runes are working. So before we start, we have to make two very important statements. First statement is, how can we achieve a change in TOPWAR? These are the following three steps. We need a great idea, and God knows we have plenty of fantastic ideas coming from our community. The step number two is getting as much support as possible from the community. In other words, the more numbers we have, the more important the topic will become also for River Game. And step number three is actually to present these ideas to River Game and seek to find a compromise in order to get this request in one form or another implemented. So why am I saying this? Because this is heavily related to the point number two, but also because I see the vast majority of the community loves to simply jump to step number three, in which they are saying, but the developers do not listen. And they keep refusing to look at the step number two, and I'm gonna give you the perfect example for this. We have made a video, we have made a poll regarding the hero exclusive skill recycling tool, and this is what we got, dear beautiful people. Approximately 2,500 players supporting this, while we have roughly between 300 and 600,000 logins per week. These are not downloads, so this is simply a rhetorical question here, which you do not have to answer in the comments if you were the developer and you see an idea with roughly 2,500 people behind this versus 300 to 600,000 logins per week. How much importance would you give this idea? Again, this is rhetorical, you don't have to answer, but this is the reality. And this point number one also is connected to the point number two, which is, I'm gonna make this episode regarding what runes are best for Jester in this case, but here comes another great idea which was forwarded to the developers with, again, extremely low community support. We always have to mention this. This is part of the reality. And the suggestion was clear. Every time we craft a piece of gear, if we get a rune, we should get a box from which we can choose exactly what runes we are desiring. And by the way, these boxes already exist in game because these were implemented and used once River Game was handing out those compensations for the transition to the changes made to the special effects, or nowadays called the runes. So these 2 points are super important. Now let's start with the topic of this episode, in which I'm going to show you which runes you should put on Jester, but also I'm going to present you 2 runes which are extremely glitchy right now. So this is definitely going to be a very interesting episode for a lot of you out there which chooses to watch these episodes. First of all, I would like to open Jester to clearly explain this hero. So its design, we're gonna apply a debilitation. This is super important to mention, and also on top, this hero does not have an active skill. Quite the contrary, you see there, it's a passive skill. So this hero doesn't have a hit. Very important piece of information. And the second one can be very confusing for a lot of players, which is actually the level 5 exclusive skill, by stating that all vulnerable and debilitation effects are boosted by 40% if this hero is in this March. But this does not mean that this hero has the vulnerable effect. He doesn't have it, he's just gonna boost it. She only has the debilitation. Good, let's go now to the runes and try to make it as simple as possible. And therefore, I would like to classify a couple of runes in order to make this very important. So first of all, I do not have to mention the damage increase and the damage decrease runes. This definitely works on every single hero, even on Bob if you choose to use that. Now to the second and the third type of runes, these are this with debilitation, vulnerable, magnetic pulse and ignitions. Then there are 2 types of them. One like you see on the gun, or on the optical add-on or on the gloves, these are exclusively if the hero has an active skill. So from this perspective, all 4 of these runes will not work on Jester whatsoever, only on the hero with the active skills. And the other type of rune, you're gonna find it on the chest, on the helm, or on the boots. And these are if the hero actually has such effect, then these effects will be amplified. So from this list right here, ignition, debilitation, magnetic pulse, and vulnerable, only the debilitation one will work. Just this rune will work on Jester. Good. Now let's address the rest of the runes existing. Another one specifically for heroes with an active skill is All Out Surge, and this again will not work on Jester. Jester doesn't have any hit. The second rune I would like to speak about, you find it on the chest, and this is the Steer Torrent, which will only gonna work if the hero has an HP enhancement. And generally speaking, the offense buffing heroes in top war do not have health enhancement. This you find in general on the support heroes like Snake Eyes, Meowzilla, Zen, Crimson, and so on and so on. So this Steer Torrent will not gonna work on Jester. Now here we come to the tricky part, because I've told you at the beginning of the video, I'm gonna show you 2 very glitchy runes, which from my perspective is simply a glitch. I don't think it's a tooltip description error. And the first one is actually the Artillery Storm. And if you read the description of this rune, it's absolutely obvious this rune is exclusively only for heroes with an offense buffing capability. And yes, in this case, Jester is an offense buffing hero, therefore this one will 100% work on Jester. But this is at the same time also one of these 2 runes which are extremely glitchy. In other words, the information which I have right now is that a few players find out that equipping this specific rune, the Artillery Storm, on Shinji or on Duke, it will actually gonna improve their proc rate. Now, why am I telling you this? Super important, because I do not possess this specific rune right now, but there are a lot of players out there which have it, and do us all a favor and test this. Put this rune on Shinji, put this rune on Duke, and test to see if indeed these specific 2 heroes get a higher proc rate, because this rune is definitely not working as intended. And the second very glitchy rune, you're gonna find it on the chest. Now, the huge difference between this one and the Artillery Storm is I actually have the Unbreakable rune, and let me show you the glitch. So if we read the rune descriptions, if the hero equipped with this gear has the Indestructible effect, then this rune will gonna amplify that. Is that the case? No, of course that is not the case. And let's go into the war zone and let me show you the following scenario. And what you're seeing here is that this rune is nowhere on my chest, neither on Lila or on Zen or on Jester. And therefore, if we press the replay, we're gonna go directly to the round number 3. And what are you seeing here? The Indestructible shield is gone. But what would happen if I would equip this rune on one of these 3 heroes? And here's the point, it doesn't have to be Lila in this case. Now, what would happen if I would choose to equip this rune on one of these 3 heroes? And this is the funny part, it doesn't have to be Lila, because theoretically it should only work on Lila. And therefore, if we go here, you're gonna see I actually used all my equipment which I have on Striker, because I have the Unbreakable rune on. And let's press replay and see what's gonna happen. So this is the round number 1, this is the round number 2, you see the Indestructible buff, and guess what, this is the round number 3, and you still are seeing the Indestructible buff, because the rune is actually equipped on Jester. Okay, so you probably think by now that you should stop watching this video, because the most important informations were already presented. Yeah, you are wrong. There is one thing which we definitely have to address when it comes down to these effects, which are ignition, vulnerable, debilitation, and the magnetic pulse. And in this specific case of Jester about the debilitation effect, which is a damage reduction. And here is my conversation with Mr. Bob Griff on this topic. What is his opinion about the debilitation? Is this an additive or is this a multiplicative effect? In other words, the debilitation, which gonna have a severe effect on your opponent specific slots, only the slots which have the debilitation on, which leads us to the next hint regarding the next video about the Navy meta together with the runes, because yes, dear beautiful people, having one extra debilitation on an extra slot, cause Lila has more hits than Duke, will definitely gonna make a big difference in the future. This debilitation is multiplicative, which makes these runes actually even more valuable than the damage increase and the damage decrease, to be honest. But again, this would be in a far better game, which still can be achieved with your support, dear beautiful people, as community, in which we can have these boxes and we can literally plan this special effect and say, this is what I'm aiming for next. That rune, that rune, that rune, and make River Game understand it's a fantastic idea to start reducing this RNG whenever it's possible. Of course, still keeping a portion of the RNG in a game. That will be a fantastic step into a fantastic direction, which TOPWAR should definitely take. So anyways, beautiful people, I hope this was a very informative video. As always, do not forget to support what supports you back. That's me personally, and that's also this channel since November 2022. So you want to support this channel and my efforts, subscribe to this channel. Share this channel with your friends. Ask your friends to watch these videos, not just only to support me, but also to get more and more knowledge if they are still playing TOPWAR. Thank you very much for watching, dear beautiful people, and I will gonna see you in the next one. Ciao.